Hi, I'm the Recruiting Maven and welcome back to my channel. Today's topic of conversation is how AI changes the way we now apply to jobs. With that said, I just want to say a quick thank you for those of you who like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I deeply appreciate your kind support. For those of you who are new to my channel, I have an ever-growing playlist with career tips and advice, so make sure you check that out. So my first question is, how comfortable are you with AI, and do you know really what AI means? And I've had this conversation with a few of you before in other videos. You know, when people are asked what is AI, most people think of a robot because of Hollywood and because of sensationalism and so many other things that we just kind of derive that definition from, but it really isn't. You know, a robot is still a mechanical thing, if you will, versus AI, which is actually an algorithm. So for those of you who have an iPhone, Siri is an AI. So let's take a look at what AI really is and what it isn't and how it functions when you apply. Now, the AI we're going to be looking at is actually a chatbot. Now, I know there's probably a lot of grumbling out there, and I'm one of those people, a lot of those chatbots' level of response is not that of a human being. But what I can say is I was incredibly impressed. So let's take a look at that. So taking a look at this company's website, I love it because it's very clean. As soon as you get to accessing their careers, and you can do it in the traditional way of just, manually inputting the information. But again, we're looking at the AI, and she is actually right down here. And if you click on her, and I've already started this just to make it go faster, you can ask her various questions such as business, culture, benefits, and more. And I think it's phenomenal. I absolutely love this. Now, of course, this is not a human. It's not going to have that same intelligence of a human, but actually she does a pretty good job. So when you input, tell me more about benefits, this is great because, 9 times out of 10, you don't get this kind of a response from a company unless one, either they post this information on their website, and most of the companies don't. Doesn't matter what size they are. And not only does she give you just a brief overview, but she does give you a link, and I'm not going to go into this because it'll take too long. But for those of you, who do have or do need to know this information, I actually have a friend who has a very sick child, and this is really relevant to my friend. So before making a career change, my friend would actually benefit from this kind of information up front, as opposed to waiting to actually apply and have a recruiter respond or may not respond. So you can also ask her about the business, and she'll just kind of give you an overview of that, who they are, what they do. If you're doing some research as to what companies are relevant to you and your industry, or possibly a career change, this information is phenomenal, I think, to have up front, which, again, unless you're going to get a recruiter on the phone, you're not going to know this information right off the bat unless you're going to plan on doing a lot of research online. And then last but not least, I love this question, tell me more about company culture. I think that's also very relevant. We want to make sure that we're a fit for that company, or they're a fit for us. And so I think having more information is always better. Now, when we look at the various positions that they have, now I did a really quick search. Now, a couple things is, instead of manually putting all this information in, which is what I touched on at the beginning, I love this because what it says is looking for software development positions anywhere. And this is where I just like, this is awesome for me, because if you type in anywhere in quotes, it'll actually give you all the positions for software development within the company. So you don't have to start looking, the old way of looking for that particular role in a particular area. It'll just give you a list of everything they have open. So it makes your life a little bit easier. Now, once you do find it, what she will do is she will automatically ask you if you need some assistance in applying. If you don't, that's fine. You can just start uploading your resume, going through that whole, the typical stuff. What I can say to you is, if you do qualify, and she will look through resume parsing very quickly, and we'll talk about that at the end because it's going to take a little bit more time, but she's going to go through your resume, take into account what your skills are, and if you do qualify based on what they're looking for, then she will move you through the screening process for a particular position. So then she'll say, hey, I think you have a great resume. Do you have some time to go through a quick screen? And if you say yes, then she will move you through the process. And again, this is key.
moving you through the process is phenomenal. A lot of times people constantly complain about recruiters and companies that, they apply to a position and they've never heard back from them and they don't know where they are. So the AI is so intelligent enough to then be able to qualify you for the role, start immediately asking you questions about it, and then be able to give you feedback. Hey, you do qualify for this role. Hey, this is not a good fit for you. So let's take a look at other positions that you might be qualified for. Would you like to do that? So she asks you, she gives you those options. And so you have an immediate response as to, yes, you're qualified for this role. No, you're not qualified for the role. If you do qualify, she will send all the necessary documentation per, your screening, your resume, all of that to the recruiter. So it's getting to the recruiter at a much faster rate, which is great. You want that quick response, especially again during the pandemic. Everything is just, there's so many applicants right now in every single requisition. It gets overwhelming for everybody, really, just for everybody. This is just such a wonderful tool. Now, not every company is going to have this. This is not an inexpensive little gadget by any means. It's going to depend on what their budget constraints are, if they actually can have an easy transition from a legacy system to a newer system. This company did a phenomenal job, and I thank them for including me in their training session as to how they actually went through a digital transformation, and it did take them 2 years. And again, I can't say enough good things about them. They did a phenomenal job, and where I think that they just knocked it out of the ballpark is that just quick response to all the candidates. So the more companies upgrade and decide to go more digital and more sophisticated AI, the better I think it is going to be for all candidates alike.
So I just want to take a moment to explain to you what resume parsing is, because it is also an algorithm, it is also an AI. And what it does is when you apply to a position, what the AI does is if you have font that's like very fancy, what it's going to do, it's going to change the font so it can read your information better. So please make sure you're providing, when you apply, a very clean copy of your resume. I would suggest fonts like Calibri, Helvetica, Arial, Georgia, those types of very easy to read fonts, because it's going to make the process go even faster. So with that said, what the AI does is then start to look for keyword searches, which was the original resume parsing AI. And now it's gotten to a little bit more sophisticated with natural language interpretation. So it'll look for contextual relevant synonyms. So what you're trying to imply, it's going to try and interpret that language to then try and match it up to the actual job description requirements, that sort of thing. So hopefully that explains it a little bit better, but that is a function of AI. And for those companies that are not as sophisticated as the one I just presented to you, some of them are using this type of technology, just so that you're aware. So I do hope you found this helpful. Please leave a comment with any questions that you may have, or you can feel free to DM me on any of my social media platforms. With that said, I do thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing to my channel. I deeply appreciate your kind support, and I will see you in my next video. Take care and have a lovely rest of your day.